Hello. I guess give a 2 weekly updates now. Film is going well. For those who I need to get emails to, I will get them to you this evening. My bad. It's interesting. As you can see, the Portland State University campus. It's interesting. Making a film, like, wrestle with the ideas of what it means to produce a film, be creatively involved. I'm learning a lot. That's good, right? It doesn't help that my living situation's kind of flipped it on its head. I still have a place to live. That's good. Just that calm moment of reflection. It's weird. This is a calm moment for me. Just letting my mind wander. But you didn't come here to listen to my mind wander. Maybe you did. I don't know. But yeah, the production's going good. Putting together some plans for other projects. For those who are interested in my production newsletter, sorry as well that's a little late. My feature film school kind of take precedence over all the other stuff. But I will be putting that out here in the next week or so. Gotta write the papers for school. Make sure all the film stuff is doing well. But if you're interested in being in front of the camera or behind the camera, you should definitely try to get on my production email. My hair's bothering me. I like it long, but it's bothering me. Been thinking about so many different things. So many different ideas and philosophies and theories and political schemes and my place in it all, everybody's place in it all. But where does it leave me? I don't know. It's kind of rambling. I've been trying to work on a way of condensing all my thoughts into some document. By the way, if you haven't figured out yet, writing is not my strong suit. Well, ideas are strong. Putting it just with the learning disability and now anxiety about writing and getting stuff done, it's difficult. But I'll make it through. Very positive. Don't read too much into the negative stuff. And hopefully, at some point soon, I'll be able to condense all my thoughts into a organized mess, a unifying theory of my personal philosophies. Maybe some of you will want to read it. If you're interested in reading my unified theory of philosophies, let me know in the comments. Send me a message. It could be like 5 to 8 months out though. Like, making a film and going to school has kind of consumed my time. So I put a little bit of time here and a little bit of time there. And maybe doing these videos will help suss out those thoughts. What would also help is if you're interested, you want to know more about a certain topic, such as humanism, or have a discussion about sexuality or gender and politics and economics or business or art, education, would love to talk. I'd love to get some of these ideas out of my head. It's a lot easier if people ask me questions. So if you're interested, I'm looking for a questionnaire. I can't tell if it's dark or not. Hopefully this will look fine. I'm going to post it either way. But there is a thought. Convince you of, or maybe at least start the discussion of, how I think economics, politics are the same thing. And then art and politics are the same thing. Therefore, economics and art are the same thing. Also, the difference between art and craft. Like, as a photographer, my skill as a photographer, the knowledge that I possess to use equipment to generate a photo, it's a craft. The art is me putting meaning behind it, and other people finding meaning in it too. So art is this dialogue. Art isn't just what the artist says it is, but it's also what society says it is. It's that dialogue in between there, and that is where I think art meets politics, is that art really is somebody drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where I stand on a position. Probably not forever, but at least for now, I stand on this position. I feel that this idea, this position isn't being represented or talked about. And I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to change the world, except I can take a photo, I can paint a picture, I can put a urinal in a museum. To be art, you have to accept that people will not like what you have to say. To be damned. To be challenged. The question would be, is art that is popular art anymore? And you can get in the distinction between fine art, which I would say is almost a craft at certain points. But I could rant on about what art is and crafts, but that's not the point. To me, at the very least, art is you having a position on something, a value, a philosophy, and saying, this is where I stand. And expressing that to other people. And other people responding to that statement. And at the end of the day, making a stand on a value or philosophy or an idea or whatever it is a political thing. Saying, I think we should do this or we shouldn't do that. As a group, as a collective. To me, politics is really, how do we as a group of people work together to make something happen? It's that discussion, that dialogue, that's politics. So when people say, oh, I don't like discussing politics, they're really saying is they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want their positions challenged. They don't want to challenge anybody else's positions. They want to be safe. And therefore, art cannot be safe. It's ideas that are fundamentally there to challenge. You can look at it. Comedy doesn't stay around. Something that was funny 30 years ago isn't always going to be funny today. Stuff from 5,000 years ago always isn't going to be funny unless it can hit some crucial part that transcends culture and society, but hits us as a human being. Then that comedy is artistic. That's not to say that comedy can't push the line in it itself, either way. But politics has a history. It's much more... Political sciences and political theory is heavily tied to economic thought and thinking and theory. At one point, they were the same. And there's even some people who are thinking of blending those two schools of thought back together. So politics and economics are literally the same thing. Because you got to think about it. All economics is dealing with resources and how those resources are distributed amongst people. And how do you do that in a society where people can put their input in through politics? Economics and politics are that. And so art itself, a medium, a craft, based off of a craft, has to generate some sort of resource. For the artist to be able to do that, they have to sustain their life. So they have to negotiate resources. They have to negotiate ideas. So art, economics, and politics are like that. I always kind of thought it was weird. I was interested in arts. I was interested in business, science, politics, how to bring those together. Because to me, art is a byproduct of trying to understand. I go out in the world, I see something, I question it. Why does the snow fall? How can the snow help us? Can you drink the snow? Can you eat the snow? Questions. It leads you to try to understand those things. And there it goes, politics. We have to discuss and figure out how we can all agree on that. Which is why science and scientific rigor and scientific methodology is so important. Because at the heart of it, the scientific method is a political concept. Negotiation on a communal or societal base allows us to understand the world. And as you start to question, you want to maybe express that idea. But language is limiting. We can't use our words to describe everything. There are so many concepts I would like to express, but it'd be so much easier and more likely for you to be interested in understanding those ideas if I presented them in a way that was more consumable than in an academic journal. So my interest in the social and political sciences, as much as I'd like to be a scholar or scientist that explores those areas, I think being somebody who can communicate those principles through a medium is much more useful. I look at things like Star Trek. Star Trek is heralded as making revolutionary changes in technology. You could see this in the form of the communicator to now the cell phone. But it's also a change of social values based off of social sciences. It wasn't just applied or natural sciences, but it was also social sciences that it pushed the limits of. I'd like to do all of them, but I'm a broke college student trying to make a film on a shoestring budget. Maybe one day. I think science fiction is definitely a great way to explore a lot of those thoughts, push people. But that's art. That's economics, that's politics, that's science. Those four things come together and are really just different aspects of how we discuss, understand, express, negotiate those things. So I ask you, audience, questions. I'm what you would, I would consider myself a capitalist. It's more complicated than that, but hopefully that'll get you interested in having some dialogue by me saying I'm a capitalist. If you think yourself anything but a capitalist, what do you think of yourself? Socialist? Communist? A social democrat? Do you agree with capitalism but just think there needs to be more of a welfare state or a welfare net? I'd like to start a discussion. I think it's fascinating. So I'm not against social connectivity on an economic or political level to make sure people are secure. But I think people don't take in, when they talk about socialism, I don't think they take into consideration larger sweeping consequences of what socialism or communism or even social democracy does, because it's not every country and society and culture and size of people can work with these things. And so some people say communism can work on paper, other people say that it can't at all, so on and so forth. And it's an interesting subject and been brought up again and again, and maybe partly because I'm on a university campus, but it makes me think about it a lot. And I would love to have a dialogue. And if you're interested in having a dialogue, I would love to have a dialogue with you. Would you be interested in having it recorded? I think of myself politically as... So there's the thing, on the political spectrums, there's an axis of social issues and an axis of economic issues. And on these axes, there's a liberal place and a conservative place on both of them. And the reason I do it like that is it's an interesting way. If you think of both of these top points as liberal and the bottom ones as conservative, you would actually see most Republicans, moderate Republicans, on the side of more liberal economic policies. You would see this Democrats on the more side of liberal social politics. But they're conservative on the opposite one. There's this idea, political idea, that a government or a governing body or society as a whole needs to have some sort of control over the people's lives. I can't remember who said this, if it's John Locke or Hobbes, or names are not my strong suit. If I was to put more of a constructed production value video, I would look up the names and give you all the wonderful sources, but they're conservative and liberal. So if you see yourself as a Democrat, think about how you are conservative on certain issues. If you're Republican, think about how you are liberal on certain issues, and maybe stop using liberal and conservative as such a derogatory term towards each other. Myself, I consider myself liberal on both of those axes. That freedom is more important than restriction. I would vote for lots of different candidates, be them socialists, be them Democrats, be them Republicans, be them libertarians. Probably more at the end of the day, vote for libertarian policies and party members. But I believe freedom, first and foremost, is the most important thing. Tied with that first place is this idea of non-aggression. I would classify myself as a pacifist. I believe violence in any form besides for self-protection is unethical. Flat out unethical. Violence is unethical unless it is for self-protection or to protect others. But I can rant about all these things: art, politics, economic modes of production, and all sorts of stuff. And this is why I'm getting a degree in film, because film allows me to cover all of those subject matters. Because that's what film does. Film itself is an art. And it talks about politics, it talks about economics, it talks about philosophy, it challenges societal norms. I didn't know there was a bell here. Must be a church nearby. There's always a church nearby. And for those who are turning in, I'm what they would refer to as a secular humanist. So I'm not religious either. And that affects my political biases. I don't think we should end religion, but I definitely think there are issues with it. And we can discuss those too. I'm looking for people to discuss. Challenge me on my positions. The only way I can learn more is by being pushed, being challenged. My positions can or cannot be right. My philosophy is much like Schrodinger's cat. It is both right and wrong at the same time until you open the box, aka prove me wrong. But that's the other important thing, is the understanding between, and this is where I'm going to end for the day, is the difference between belief and knowledge. Knowledge is a subset of belief. Belief is, I believe that snow is made out of angel tears. Knowledge is a discernible, agreeable understanding of what snow is and made out of, and where it comes from. Belief can be in that practical thing, but belief can't be justified. Knowledge can be. And so if somebody says, I believe this, well, that's great that you believe it. But it's not knowledge. And if they say, I know it to be true, then they have made a claim, and they are now required to prove that claim. Much like agnostic atheist. Okay, one last thing. Agnosticism has to do with knowledge claim, and atheism has to do with belief claim. Maybe I'll talk about that later. I should do a whole series of videos that are just describing words. My definition, my understanding of those words. But I should leave you and probably get ready for the next thing I need to do. So, ta-doo, ta-doo, goodbye.